Well, hello everyone. Here we are again, happy as can be. Anyway, before we begin, just a warning. This video is so exciting that YouTube would only allow me to publish it if I signed a waiver absolving them of any blame arising from incidents of any kind related to its content and or viewing. I can show you the legal document if you want. You have therefore been warned, and proceed with caution. Also, this isn't the video I had planned for this week. That video entailed going to a place called the outdoors, to the seaside, and taking a thing called a photograph. A newfangled thing, but things being what they are with me right now, that's not been possible. So you have this Excite Fest instead. Like I said, be warned. Anyway, a few weeks ago, you might remember, but don't worry if you can't. After all, I don't know what happened. What's it called now? Yesterday. I can't. Yeah, where was I? That's it. I filmed a video comparing my two. Oh, it's dreadful, isn't it? Excuse me. I filmed a video comparing my two longish macro lenses. There's a link somewhere up above. Anyway, since then I've acquired a new lens. What, you? Spending money? A very vintage manual focus Micro-Nikkor 55mm f2.8 AIS job. And after getting this lens, I felt it made absolute sense, if you like, to compare it with a much more modern counterpart. And similarly focal length Fujifilm 30mm f2.8 macro, so a 45mm full frame equivalent. And just like that longer macro lens video, I've got the Fujifilm lens mounted onto my X-T2 with the Micro-Nikkor stuck on my Z6 via the FTZ adapter. Now they're pretty comparable in size, these lenses, although with the necessary adapter the Nikkor is a fair bit larger on the Z6, even larger still when using the PK13 extension ring, and more on that later. Neither lens feels particularly heavy or unbalanced in use though. I did the Micro-Nikkor thing again, didn't I? I'll carry on doing that, sorry. Here's a couple of comparison shots anyway to have a gander at while I chunder on aimlessly. As I said, there's not much size-wise between them, though, with the adapter, and again, with that extension tube, the Nikkor is larger when mounted to the Z6. Now, they both have, I said that already, didn't I? Oh well. They both have clicked aperture collars, but it's easy to see that the Nikkor is far more attractive, if you like, than the Fujifilm lens, for the shallow amongst us. It also has no need for a hood, as the front element is recessed by quite a distance, whereas in bright sunshine the Fujifilm needs its lens hood to prevent flare. The Nikkor takes 52mm filters, while the Fuji does 43mm ones. Important to know if you want to use a polarizing filter or the like. Anyway, here's a chart, my charts, that Chico drew up, comparing all the more vital specifications. Anyway, I know you love a chart. Why though would you want a wider angle macro lens? Well, obviously, so you can get close while still showing more of your subject. So much more useful for static objects, really, rather than things like insects, unless they're pretty dormant or of the less skittish variety, or you've glued them down. No, I don't do that. They're normally smaller and lighter too, the lenses, that is, not stuck down insects. Now, the real downside for me anyway is that they can block out light given their necessarily close working distance. So an artificial light source might just be needed, and I prefer a constant one over flash personally, and normally use something like these LEDs, which I can mount on or off camera. In use, the lenses then are quite different, really. For starters, the Nikkon's magnification ratio is only 1:2, whereas the Fujifilm offers full 1:1. And of course, with the Fujifilm, you got autofocus if you want. And if I use it, it's to get in the ballpark, really, before switching into fine-tune with manual focus. With the PK13 tube, though, the Nikon gets all the way to 1:1 magnification, but with the usual, extension tube compromises. The Nikon obviously is manual focus only, and has possibly the longest focus throw I've ever experienced in a lens. Something really handy when working very closely with your subject, but no good for rapid changes in focal distance. The lens also extends a fair bit between the extremes of its focus, and with that long throw and extension seemingly comes focus breathing, something the Fujifilm, which focuses internally, displays very little of, even between its closest and furthest focus distances. But this breathing's exaggerated even further when using the PK13 tube on the Nikkor. As I said earlier, both lenses have lovely clicked aperture or iris collars, with the Nikkor going from f2.8 to 32 in whole stops, while the Fujifilm has clicks at third stops and tops out at f22. It also has a locked out A position for shutter priority, automatic shooting, or using a command dial on the camera to change aperture. Now, neither lens has any form of image stabilization or vibration reduction, so unless your camera is so equipped, you're on your own here. Big breaths and a steady hand are the order of the day, or a solid tripod, of course. The proof, though, as always, is in the images, and here are some straight side-by-side comparisons shot with identical / equivalent settings, so all things equal except aperture. For example, f16 on the Nikkor equates to like f11 on the Fujifilm, to account for the crop factor. The Nikon is incredibly sharp, not just for its age either. It is plain and simple tack sharp. That's not to say the Fujifilm lens isn't. Both perform really very well across the whole frame, especially when stopped down to f5.6, f8, f11, which these lenses really should be used at. Next up is a depth of field and diffraction test. Again, Nikon up first, and then the Fujifilm. And here's a montage of some images from each lens. Again, Nikkor first, as usual, throughout this video. And that is it then, a comparison of my wider angle macro lenses. And so coupled with my earlier video on my longer ones, both you and I now have a comprehensive look at my macro lens arsenal. I hope you've enjoyed watching them as much as I have enjoyed putting them together. The videos, that is, not the lenses. I couldn't do that. And anyway, let me know in the comments whether you have a selection of macro lenses that you used, and if so, which is your personal favorite focal length and lens. Anyway, until next time, be nice. Got that? Okay, bye then. Ta-ra.